उम्मीद उठती है तो उसका नाम केवल अनाज.
Welcome back, viewers. Focus is back on the top story. 2611 mastermind Tahawoor Rana will remain in the NIA custody for 18 days. The NIA will question Rana in detail in order to unravel the complete conspiracy behind the deadly Mumbai terror attack of 2008. Earlier, NewsX accessed the full NIA dossier against Rana and his accomplice David Headley. It revealed that Rana was a childhood friend of Headley, and Rana served as a stint in the doctor in Pakistan Army and then moved to Canada later. He started a consultancy firm called the First World Immigration Services in Chicago in the USA, and this company was used by Headley as a cover for executing the assignments entrusted by Lashkar-e-Taiba. Rana then helped David Headley willfully provide wrong information for visa purpose at the Indian consulate in Chicago and also helped him to identify and surveil potential targets in Mumbai. In fact, Rana and Headley exchanged over 231 telephone calls during Headley's 8 visits to India. It has been 17 years since the 2611 terror attack and 15 years since Rana was arrested by the FBI on the US soil. This development is thus being touted as the biggest extradition in the recent times and a major diplomatic win for India. Now, your senior advocate Ms. Geeta Luthra is joining me live on the broadcast. Ma'am, appreciate you joining me this time, and thank you very much for speaking to us. How do you react to, in fact, the big win for India as far as now the extradition is in the hands of the Indian side, the security agency NIA is trying to do its job best, but many questions remain unanswered, and there are in fact concerns looming large as to how did exactly the attack of 2008 and the Mumbai terror attack did take place, and what were in fact the facts that still need to be procured. How do you react given at this point of time this entire extradition and the kind of role that has been played very sensitively by the NIA now?
So clearly, whenever extradition is successful of any person who needs to be tried in a criminal offense, which is an extraditable offense, then it is always the success of the country and the investigating agency in being able to succeed in the extradition. We know, for example, that in the United Kingdom, in two very well-known extradition attempts, India has so far been unsuccessful. So this success goes as a jewel in the crown to NIA, and NIA's success is something which will set foot the beginning of a trial. Sometimes the extradition takes so long that the country of origin actually loses its impetus in trying to get extradition done. In this case, from what I have looked at, it was the previous government that had initiated the extradition process, and it is the present government that, with the NIA at the helm, has succeeded in getting the extradition. To a large extent, this is half the battle done. Now, whether he will get a lawyer of his own choice, whether it will be a legal aid counsel of repute who will be assisting him, is something which will await. Now, the question that you have, what needs to be unraveled? Look, one trial has already happened with regard to 2611. So the conspiracy part, which shows whether in fact there was a conspiracy, because all these telephone records are being used in the US, if I'm not mistaken, to show that there is a case which can be built up and which can be established against him. The question then will be, since it's a serious matter of a terrorist offense, and since it is an extradition which has taken place, the onus would be heavily on the government, even though the law says that the onus will be on the state and the prosecution to a large extent to show that there was a very live conspiracy, and this was part of the entire conspiracy which led to the death of so many 100 people, innocent people in Bombay, in India. So I think that's the issue, and that issue only trial will take care of it. But what seems to me is that already NIA has made a strong case, which is why they were successful in the extradition.
Very rightly pointed out, but when we talk about the top government sources which indicate that two crucial factors that have helped India secure his extradition is that the legal rebuttal of one of the double jeopardy claim and India's diplomatic win. So when we talk about how the legal framework has helped India secure this win and the legal authorities, and the first factor was India's legal argument against the principle of double jeopardy. How do you react to that, in fact, and what is your first thought on this very matter?
So, see, I don't know the depth of the matter. I'm just telling you as a lawyer, if principles of double jeopardy are attracted, then the US, if it had felt that it's attracted, it would not have done the extradition. I believe one of the exceptional aspects which was pointed out by the NIA team and headed by Mr. Krishnan was this. They showed that how the trial which was to happen in India was different from what were the charges in US, and that is why there was the principle of double jeopardy did not hit the extradition of the extradited accused, and that's why they succeeded. So to that extent, I believe they've already been able to cover this ground in the US. Whether this ground would be open to them here in India and whether it will hit as a valid defense in India is something which the court will have to determine and would be sub judice. But to my mind, having crossed that hurdle, I believe that that hurdle is over for the prosecution.
Well, definitely. In fact, the Indian authorities have been able to convince the US officials that the protection against the double jeopardy is based on the specific element of a crime and not merely the defendant's conduct. Since Tahawoor Rana has not been, in fact, tried in India under the unlawful activities, prosecuting him under this law then later would not violate the double jeopardy clause as we are mentioning. So, as the legal framework is concerned, and I believe you would have the best opinion on that, how would you like to comment on the act that has been taken forward by the India's legal framework to execute this further, which has now resulted into a big win for India on a diplomatic level? And as far as there is a fight to prove a point that India is against any kind of terror activities and will not let such kind of plots to be executed and planned and plotted on Indian soil, this legal work that has been done in the back end with complete precision has definitely, in fact, contributed significantly. How would you like to respond on that?
So, I don't think any comment on a matter which is sub judice is very fair, but what I'll tell you is that India has, in framing its terrorist laws, done a up down, because there has always been this, and this is the problem of all countries, that while you want terrorists who are actually indulging in terrorist activities to be tried and prosecuted in the most strong terms, you also don't want innocent people to get to the gallows. That is why the graph of the terrorist law in India has been strict, more in favor of the victim, strict, more in favor of the victim, up, down. But the fact is, and the courts have held, that look, basic position of law, that there will be natural justice, that there should be natural justice, is something which India has always been lauded for. And I believe that some have been critical that India was too liberal or was what people may say too fair. But there is nothing like too fair, and principles of natural justice had been complied with in the earlier trial and should be complied with and will be complied with. I am confident. And I am confident that the way they have been able to establish the material at the time of extradition, the case which would be laid before the special judge would also bring out the conspiracy and the true facts.
Well, absolutely. In fact, thank you very much, Ms. Geeta Luthra, for citing your thoughts and putting this in complete perspective as far as the Thakur Rana's extradition